going to move very quickly because I have a lot to cover in a very short period of time. Just briefly to Ms. Foster, Section 40 of the bill is in relationship to Sections 38 and 39, and it's in the case where a company or an individual would have committed a crime in contravention of the Act, and it would apply a penalty of up to 5% of the person's gross global revenues in its financial year. Are you aware of any other legislation related to artificial intelligence that applies such a fine?
I'm not aware of any jurisdiction that has such stringent fines or penalties.
Okay, just a point. Can any of the other companies present comment on the fine contained in Section 40 of the bill?
Similarly, we're not aware. We're equally concerned about the remote access provisions in the bill, which would allow the AI commissioner to access data from all of our companies remotely without any concern for privacy or protection of that data.
Okay. Very quickly, yes or no?
No, especially the criminal provisions. We're not aware of other OECD partners taking that approach.
Okay, and Google?
No, we're not aware of anyone else taking that approach, and I would point out that the test is also a likelihood to contravene, so
yeah,
goes beyond what we tend to see.
Okay, thank you. On the data commissioner in Section 33 of the legislation, I'm particularly concerned about this, largely because in other panels we've heard, and it's well known that the Government of Canada doesn't have the intellectual capacity to regulate AI. So what I'm concerned about is in this legislation, we're going to be giving very broad powers to regulators, and in some cases the minister may divulge those powers to, in the current form of the bill, a data commissioner, an artificial intelligence and data commissioner that reports directly to the minister. I'm concerned about this relationship because it may create a conflict between multiple objectives contained in the Department of Industry, namely one of economic development and then two of protecting citizens from online harms in this case. Would any of the panelists be able to comment on whether they believe an artificial intelligence and data commissioner in the context of artificial intelligence may be better served if that individual or future government organization report directly to Parliament and not the Minister of Industry?
I don't know that we have a super strong view about that, other than to say that, again, just to repeat my previous comments, I think it is very, very difficult for one organization or one person to kind of be able to understand risk mitigation in financial services or healthcare. And these are very complex use cases. I would strongly recommend that the government consider devolving the responsibilities of overseeing AI in those sectors to those regulators specifically.
Okay, thank you. I'll have one other, or does anyone else want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to have an AI commissioner report to Parliament rather than to the Minister of the Department directly. As we've said, the remote access provisions in here allow the Commissioner to conduct audits and access user data in companies' possession. And that's a legal power that's unprecedented in liberal democracies and even non-liberal countries.
Okay. Thank you so much. The next question I will direct to Google. You know, when I said Google earlier, my Pixel 3 said, "Hey, Brad, how's it going?" But in the first iteration of this legislation, it's on privacy, and we've had a big discussion about sensitive information, and I think what's equally important in this section of the bill as well. What we haven't talked a lot about in respect to AI, up until today indirectly, and that is the impact it's going to have on children. I heard one other witness earlier mention that we need to look, and I think everyone's actually commented on this, that we need to look at take a proportionate approach for high and low risk systems. In the context of children, how would Google define sensitive information as it relates to its policies and technologies applied to children?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to respond to that. The first, safety is our number one priority, and we take a comprehensive approach to child safety. And that begins with designing age-appropriate products, then providing settings and tools for parents and users to make the right choices for them, and finally having policies that we enforce against. With regards to the specifics around the sensitivity of data from children, maybe my colleague Will can speak to how we approach privacy for children.
Yeah, and thank you. And with respect to data related to AI or any data, we're going to take the circumstances of children into account. And obviously not as a monolith, you're going to think of children who are younger and for whom their parents will be very closely involved in their use of our products or services. And you're going to think about teenagers who have more agency, but still are a special audience.
I think that's the key. I think that's the key point right there, and I'm sorry for interrupting. But in the United Kingdom, they designed privacy legislation that was proportionate to age. Do we need to do something similar for artificial intelligence regulation as well? And maybe perhaps be a little more explicit as it relates to high-impact systems with designating certain ages and the impact it could have on the psychological development of children? Mr. DeVries.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that with respect to data use in general, and my colleague Jeanette could talk more broadly about this in the context of the AI bill. But I'd say for children overall, yes, we need something that allows us, it gives us a framework as providers to design our products that is with respect to the age of our different users. So that's the framework that's emerged globally, and I think that's the same kind of idea that we want to see here in Canada.
Thank you. And finally, I have one more quick question for Microsoft related to national defense. We haven't spoken a lot about national defense in the context of artificial intelligence at this committee, largely because national defense is outside the scope of this regulation. But what's interesting is that we hear a lot about the possible harms that Canadians can face from artificial intelligence designed by national defense systems in countries such as Russia and China, which are being discussed right now at the Foreign Interference Commission that's taking place. What is Microsoft doing with the government of the United States to counter some of the actions taken by China and Russia in respect to AI and destabilizing democracies like Canada?
Certainly. So we are in active conversations with governments across North America around how do we make sure that our elections are safe, how do we ensure that we stamp out disinformation. We also have strong connections with defense here, where we see that they're putting in place AI programs that have responsible safeguards and tools to ensure that there's proper human oversight in this new world of conflict.
Okay. Is there a possibility of overlap between the roles of national defense, personal security, the application of AI, and the threats we face? Does this need to be studied further?
I believe absolutely it does need to be studied further.
Thank you.